So, first of all, welcome everyone, and thank you for staying through to the last session of day one. What we would like to focus on. So, first of all, I'll introduce the team I work with. So, Farid Maroof over here, who's working with us, and we have Vincent Nguyen at the back, who's waving there, and if Frankie's around. Frankie, there we go, also part of the team. So we're part of the USAID Sophia TS team. So we will be hosting you for the next hour to talk about some of the solutions that we've been looking at in the region. And we want to also see if we can get some insights from you in the audience as well as part of today. So I guess over the last 9 months, I've had the pleasure of working with these lovely gentlemen and lots of people across the region, and we've talked to over 90 different kind of solution providers working in the Indo-Pacific, and we've conducted over 50 interviews, and we have some of the what we'd say the bright spots from the region, some presenters who will come in later and talk us through some of their solutions. So let me walk you into the goals for today. If we can go to the next, there we go. Okay, so introduce you to the team. So this is the team. So goals for today. So first of all, we'd like to set the stage. So we'll tell you a little bit of what we've been up to over the last 9 months, talking about use case frameworks. We're going to hear from the 3 experts, as I mentioned earlier, some of the bright spots from the work we've been doing it. We're going to try and see if we can do a bit of a Slido, because we'd like to actually hear from the audience what you're seeing in the space. So we'll see if we can work out the technology and get it to work for us. And then we'll do a bit of Q&A up here for the 3 presenters, and then we'll wrap it up and we'll tell you how to stay in touch with us if you're interested in the coming months and what we're up to there. So that's our goals for today. Okay. So could I ask you all to just see if you could get Slido to work? See if you can load it up. We'll do the Slido later, but I just wanted to see if you can access it. Can I get a thumbs up if anyone's able to see? Okay. Okay. How about the back? How about the iPads? Are they working? Yes, okay, Pacifics, okay, lovely, okay, we've got a few there, okay, great. So let me dive in. I'll tell you a little bit about USAID Sophia. So as I said a minute ago, over the last 9 months, we've had the pleasure of working with the team, but our USAID asked us to look at what's going on in the Indo-Pacific in terms of technologies, platforms, and kind of different solutions that are looking at solving some of the ocean issues, especially around IUU and around human and labor rights issues. So we've had lots of lovely discussions. We've had some focus group meetings, and we've looked at over 90 solutions. So during that time, we've put all of that into a publication, which will be coming out in the next 6 to 8 weeks. It's currently with USAID, just being edited. So at the end of today's session, I'll show you a QR code, and if you would like to get access to that publication, just click the QR code and share your email, and we'll share it around with you. And then just quick definition, we've been saying AI, ML, AA, so advanced analytics, machine learning, AI, we're going to bucket that all into one bucket. So I'm going to say AI as we walk through. I actually think IA is better to term, so intelligent automation is how I'd frame some of the tools we've been looking at. Okay. So as we looked and had all these interviews through the discussions over the last 9 months, what we realized is actually we were seeing a very common kind of framework for all of the different applications that are being used around IUU and human and labor rights. So this is kind of where we boiled it down to. And pretty much most of the pieces of work that we looked at kind of fitted into this. So first of all, it's what is the problem that this solution is trying to solve, and what is really the root cause of that problem. So it's really about getting definition about what is this tool or application actually for. And then we found that everyone followed a pretty set of sequenced kind of steps, let's say. So first of all, privacy, dealing with the privacy, how kind of doing it right for the tool. There's a second stage, which is what data is available, what data was actually being used for the solution. Third was kind of picking the model. What model are you using? What technology? Which learning approach you were going to use for your model, and training it, and then integrating your solution within your overall work, linking again back to your problem, but also through to your solution. And then performance monitoring. How did you learn with your technology or the application, and how to improve and iterate through that? Then, of course, engaging the users and get that feedback into the system. And finally, looking at collaboration and partnerships and kind of how to team up for bigger impact. So as we looked at each of these case studies, we saw each one kind of had these different pieces, which led us to the solution, which was whatever the solution was, and then how to implement and scale that solution. So that was kind of our use case framework that we came up with. And as we looked across the region, we also saw there's some kind of key use case themes that were coming across for the Indo-Pacific. So I think most of you are very knowledgeable on all of these, and we've discussed them today. But leveraging satellite data for using satellite imagery, tracking algorithms to understand how boats are moving, what the patterns they have. So that was one theme. Smart data for better fisheries management. So of course, we all know that fisheries management is uber complex. You have multiple species, multiple gears, multiple stakeholders. And of course, AI likes puzzles like that, and it's kind of better at doing it than we are. So that was another theme that came up. And then identifying labor abuses in the seafood supply chain. This is picking up more recently, but there is definitely some opportunity for further applications in that space. And of course, electronic monitoring, which has been one of the key themes around this conference. So they were the four kind of key themes that we kept on seeing coming back as we thought through our use case. So based on our interviews and discussions, we actually we came across 3 case studies that we thought were particularly interesting. So we wanted to ask them to present today. Just a quick 5 minutes overview of their solution. So what is the problem? How do they use how did they use from the use case framework, what were the steps that they did, and then what is the solution they're providing? So I'm going to ask our 3, one by one, our 3 distinguished experts to come up. So maybe Ian Hayes from Integrated Monitoring. If you're good to go first, and Ian will present, and then I'll ask Sarah to come up from Cultivar, and then Attorney Dornafer from MAST will come next. So Ian, over to you.
Big thanks to Stuart and the team for putting this on, and hopefully we have a great conversation. I will be just presenting just a couple of slides from something we did earlier, but looking how back in 2016, fisheries was termed out of sight, out of mind, and we had to look at a way at getting visualization into fishing activity. And that has now morphed itself into electronic monitoring, and more recently taking that into real-time use of electronic monitoring, not only in fisheries, but also in compliance and even supporting other related workplace safety related issues at sea.
Yeah, I'm afraid we weren't able to put the slides in. So just walk us through the things. My apologies.
Okay, that's cool. So one of the problems we're looking at is there was a lot of trials around EM that had gone on in the first 5 years, but we saw the issue was, one, chain of custody, making sure we had chain of custody off the vessel into the regulator or industry, that met evidentiary data standards. So there's a security layer that we had to wrap around that. Then if we looked at scale, even small scale, and in the commercial fisheries, you're now talking fleets in excess of 100 to 1,000 vessels as a minimum per coastal regulator. So we had to basically stress test our whole architecture so that we could prove that we can manage data from 1,000 vessels quite comfortably within the context of regulatory requirements. So our first thing was to look at the architecture we use. So edge computing to optimize data that we needed to lift in the data ingress or models. And we can optimize about 80% of the uplift of what we're doing based on AI to detect activity. That could be with fishing, with gear, or crew activity on a boat, and then the various stakeholders that can access that. Then we looked at, once we get that data up into the cloud, the accessibility and the usability of that data through internet standards, so we can have distributed review or distributed authorized access to information. They were some of the key things that we were looking at. And the challenge regionally has been getting timely data related to fisheries science, to compliance and management measure obligations, or even to satisfy safe working environmental for crew, and more onerous HSC obligations in some of the regulated environments we work in. So with that, we developed a really internet-based, open architecture, cloud-based storage that's now deployed globally, and we're currently managing in the order of 50 terabytes of data a month going into cloud services for use by various stakeholders. So that's a quick overview. We also had to look at scaling that from the commercial level right down into the smaller scale. So we're getting down into that high value catch down to the 10, 15, 20 GRT, but making those technologies cost effective to deploy and to manage the data ingress for those systems in a timely manner. And our strategy for that was starting with 4G technologies, and as Starlink has become available globally, just about all the EEZ vessels are deploying Starlink for their own use, and then we can adopt it for electronic monitoring. So we've had good cases where we've been also supporting Medivac, telemedicine on some of these vessels, as well as meeting the social media responsibility for crew, but getting all the EM data back for the regulators, the vessel owners, and also other seafood certifications that are looking for more and more data out of these fisheries. The next question was remote access. So there's a lot of areas in Asia where connectivity is a problem, and Starlink provides one of those options that we can use to then infill coverage. So we can put a Starlink terminal at a loading port or a landing port in a remote area. We can put microcells around it, and we can then provide a backbone of network communications to get information off a vessel. In the context of compliance, we can now have the ability to stream a clip of video in real time directly off the vessel. So that also minimizes the operational costs of compliance and checking that vessels are operating within their regulations. Could be related to MBAs, it could be related to EEZs, it could be related to exclusion zones, etc. But now the ability is to do that in real time, and that is the game changer. So that's where I'll leave it.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Stuart, and thank you for the SAFET organizers for having me here today. My name is Sarah Harding, and I am the program manager for our aquaculture sector at Cultiva. As I mentioned earlier this morning, we are an agri-tech company with a strong focus on making climate supply chains inclusive, traceable, and climate smart. Now, we apply a triple tech approach, so agri-tech or aqua-tech, fintech, and climate tech. We started in 2013 in cocoa, so agricultural crops. But then in 2018, we started to get into the seascape sector, currently involved in seaweed, shrimp, and crab. Constantly expanding, and we're also constantly looking for new partnerships and opportunities. So we offer a cloud-based solution, and essentially 4 integrated business lines. We have our digital products, and then we have our services solutions. So today I'm going to focus on the digital products, and that is our CultiTrace digital traceability solution. And this is supported by mobile applications that support each actor along the supply chain and all sync to a web-based platform. Now, our clients, they are large multinational corporations. They can be manufacturers and processors, NGOs, or smaller cooperatives. We have a wide range of client portfolio. Now, our apps, as I mentioned, they function at those critical tracking events along the supply chain, and they collect those key data elements for data collection, analytics, and reporting. But we also have another application that is not meant for data collection or traceability, but is meant for smallholder producer empowerment, and that is FarmCloud. This FarmCloud application, it's a mobile application for producers to use. Because when we're implementing all of these solutions in the supply chain, we can't just approach farmers and expect them to supply us with their data, and they don't have any benefit for themselves. So we need to empower them, we need to incentivize them somehow. And FarmCloud is just one of the tools that we use to do this. And it provides access, what it does is provides access to personal information, supply chain data, their own farm data, productivity data, e-learning materials accessed that can be supplied and downloaded on the application. It can be downloaded offline. Interaction with input providers, quality inputs, and also access to buyers and to finance. So the app is also integrated with a digital e-wallet, enabling responsible finance solutions, improved savings, PPOB transactions, crop procurement, and access to loans. Now, to back up all of these features of the application, we also have a chatbot. And this chatbot is an AI chatbot integrated into the application. It launched last year with our project in cocoa first, with our Nestle client in Ecuador. And originally it was a rule-based chatbot, so it provided producers with direct access to our expert professionals, our agronomists on our team and our aquaculturists. But due to the increasing demand and the growth, in order to manage the knowledge and the content and the resources, we started the integration and development of the OpenAI chatbot feature. And the goal for us going forward is now to explore this in the use case within other commodities, especially within aquaculture and fisheries. And we will be touching on that session later, actually on Thursday, where we'll kind of do a little live interaction with it. So hope to all see you back there. That's the introduction. I'll leave it at that for now. Thank you, everyone.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Donna Pasukri. I'm a founder and executive director of Mass Human. So I would like to start about how I do this, because I'm a lawyer, typical lawyer. I do a lot of cases, and in the past, 5-7 years, that someone said they have a lot of problem in the fishing industry, and I found passion because I, get to work in cases that concern worker rights. So that's how I started to form Mass Human. So at Mass Human, we have a vision to have a symbol like we don't want seafood to have forced labor or labor trafficking. So we work with, in terms of a vision that we have to implement technology in terms of prevent human trafficking, forced labor, and labor trafficking in the supply chain. I used to represent 30 fishermen that were forced to work in a fishing vessel, and it turned out that they cannot testify in court well. That how the technology kicks in. How I think how we can use like digital evidence in terms of proof labor trafficking instead of relying on testimony of vulnerable workers. So in the past 5 years, we developed mass human intelligence. Our solution is cloud-based. That means you have a peer discussion, you have people to warn each other in terms of to avoid to be trafficked, to be in the forced labor, that's crowdsourcing. So, and the other thing, one thing that our apps is quite unique is we have the power in the hand of workers. That means when they feel some threat or some feel of danger, so they can put a trigger and let the people at home know that they're in danger and seeking help. And also we have a feature to have fishers or workers to report the crime that they witness, or they can send audio recording or even photos, videos through our application, and those recording is not stored in their phones to ensure that their safety is our most priority. We just launched it in August, and now we have 5,000 users, and we have a lot of users because in a short of time, because we work with the government. The government of Thailand support us. We work closely with the Department of Special Investigation. That means, technology alone is not cannot solve anything, but we need collaboration. That's why we work with the government in terms of when we spot or even we detect human trafficking or forced labor, so we can refer cases to Department of Special Investigation for intervention and to rescue operation, and then investigation to put the criminal to court and get punishment. That's how we address in form of working with the government. And at MAS, we also open to work with businesses because before getting into forced labor and human trafficking, labor trafficking, they have a lot of lists before it become to, such a heinous crime. So in working with business, you may understand that nowadays, business need to provide like transparency in the supply chain. They need to identify the risk and how they address the risk. That I think with our solution, we can identify victims. So why we cannot identify risk? That's how we open to work with businesses in terms of put human or social components into the fishing industry. And I want to emphasize to everyone that the fishing industry is not all about the fish. It's also about human too. Thank you.
Thank you, Ian, Sarah, and Dornafa. I think that was without slides. Very good. Okay, let's see if we can get a bit of audience participation. So let's see. I'm gonna go through here. Nope, we got, okay. Can you see if you could get the Slido up for us? That would be great. Okay, we have 5 questions. Can we put the slide on the screen, please? There we go, good. Okay, see if so first question, if we go back to the use case framework that I shared earlier, which part in your work of the use case framework do you consider your organization or your solution is strongest? So please pick up to 4 options. So is it the identifying the problem? Is it the ethical, the compliance? Is it the data aggregation, selection of data? Is it the model selection, system integration, performance monitoring, user feedback, or strategic partnerships, or the actual solution? Are we able to show the live response? There we go. Okay. Oh, interesting. So everyone's pretty clear on problems and the scaling, but the system integration, so this is the strengths. Wow. Okay, we'll give it another 30 seconds. This is great. And if you sign up later on the email QR code, we'll send you all the results as well. So, cool. Okay, so last 5 seconds to vote, and then we're going to take you to the next question. So the next question is the same, but which part of the use case framework do you consider your organization or your solution is weakest on? Can we show you the live results again? There we go. Perfect. Okay, let's get some more votes so we can see the spread. So it's the integration with the system and the performance monitoring. The ethical, the compliance. Excellent. Another 10 seconds, and we'll take you to the next. Okay, so it looks like performance monitoring, highest system integration, then ethical compliance, and then the model selection, scaling, strategic partnerships are the lower ones. Okay, let's go to the next question. Don't worry, this is the last 3 to go. Okay, so if you had $500,000 to invest of your own money in IUU human and labor rights solutions, which part of the value chain would you invest in for the biggest impact? At sea, capture, landing site, transportation, processing, or distribution to the domestic market or exporting. Can we show the live results again, please? Oh, it's okay. The app's not integrating. Let's have a look. At sea. Wow. Okay, let's keep voting. Okay, last 10 seconds. Okay, so it's really at sea and landing sites, processing. So it's actually from the left over to the right, looks like. Okay, excellent. Next question, please. Okay, so we're trying to do a word cloud now. You've got 3 words, 30 characters. What solution would you invest in 3 words or 30 characters? Is it IUU, human and labor rights? Is it, where would you, species ID? I like the 822. Policies, full digital chain, market regulations, market, EM, there we go, species ID, EM, IUU, equity, tenure, collaboration, farmer knowledge and education, detecting IUU. Wicked. Looks very interesting. Okay, last 10 seconds. If you look in the top right-hand corner, you'll see how many of us have voted. So we're up to 62. Stuart Green, thank you. That must be Pak Farid. I got that one. Okay, cool. Let's go to the last question. And in the meantime, could we set the chairs up on the front, and we'll ask our panelists to join, if that's all right, Chris. Okay, so this is a question particularly for our donor. So USAID, part of the reason why they asked us to look at some of these technologies was the question around, what role could potential donors play in supporting some of the solutions for IUU, human and labor rights. And we've got developer community of practice, research grants, impact measurement, training capacity building. What's the role for donors in this space? Funding. So innovations and breakthrough solutions. Training capacity building, it seems to come up there. Number 2, policy development. So we've still got 33 so far. Impact measurement, public awareness, financing awareness campaigns to engage fishing communities and advocate for AI's role in combating IUU. But we're really landing funding innovations, breakthrough solutions, training, capacity building. Okay, let's give it another 5 seconds. Okay. Okay, so funding innovations and breakthrough solutions, training, capacity building, providing funding for workshops and training programs that build local expertise in AI and fisheries management. Excellent. Thank you, everyone. So as I said, later on I'll show you a QR code, and we're more than happy to share that all back with you, but we will also be sharing that back to our funders. Okay, so we've got about 20 minutes left, so I didn't want to use the opportunity to invite our 3 lovely speakers to the front to join us, and we'd like to open now to the audience. You know, do you have any questions for them? Any of the opportunities that you're seeing, or anything you're also sharing in your work moving forward? Please join. And we can close the Slido. So I think Mark is over in the left-hand side, and Pak Farid is over here to take any questions. And please introduce yourself and your work, and then if you can just share your question for the whole panel, or if you'd like to identify one of the panel members for that question. Who wants to go first? There we go.
Thank you. My name is Greg Cassad. I work with Wild Aid Marine. My question is about masked human and just confidentiality of reporting as it records some of what people are finding. Is it anonymous?
Actually, we take it seriously in terms of safety of the information. We not share with anyone until, we share only 3 circumstances. The first one is a request from emergency contract. The second one from the user itself, because they have a channel to talk with us, so they can ask us to provide to law enforcement. And the other one is when in time of need, we believe that they have a criminal that need to be shared, required by the law. So I follow the law in terms of keep confidentiality of the user information.
Next question. No questions? I'm going to ask one. So to our panelists, has there been any unintended consequences of any of your work as you've gone ahead? Something that you didn't quite expect was going to happen, and it could be a benefit, it could also not be a benefit. Have you had any experience with any unintended consequences? Go, Ian.
Yeah, I think the biggest one is once we deploy the communication capabilities, you enable all these other services to become alive. And so we're going from vessels having little safety or no safety response or worker information to the point now a fishing vessel can have telemedicine, it can have the ability to do remote learning while at sea if they have time, keep in contact with families, but all the objectives that the various stakeholders are looking at are so dependent on the communications capability. So this out of sight, out of mind is now something that we can say, we can address it, we can provide solutions, and that enables more developers, more applications, etc., then to layer on top of that for the various stakeholders. So EM was the driver, but all the other benefits of adoption are coming faster than we could have anticipated.
Yeah, I also have one. Our technology is intended to use in the fishery. Once we introduce it in terms of finding collaboration from the government, and because the first we try to address labor in the fishing sector, we detail specifically for this one. And we have the idea that when we do it with fishing industry, so we can do it with other communities. So, but when introduce our application to the government, they seem to work in the bigger picture first. Now we use it, introduce it to Thai people who work abroad in massage, in anything that leads to be traffic or even in for scammer. That I don't think is happen, but it's a good thing that is happen that someone sees the potential with our application. And I still have work because as to work with the fishing industry that we intended to do it, and that's why we see collaboration here.
Okay, excellent. Sarah? And
Okay,
don't worry if there's not.
It's working. No, I guess just like we are a startup, so we started quite small back in 2013, and we're focused on traceability first, and then we've kind of grown and developed our solutions and our applications to include many more features than we initially intended, and that's just because of all this data collection that we've been doing in the field. We started, how else can we use that data, not just for traceability purposes, but for integrated value chain management, and how our clients can support other business users in the supply chain and combine their data to identify issues where improvement might with smallholder producers and capacity training, or access to finance might be needed, and improve stakeholder engagement as well. So originally starting out as like a traceability company, but then recognizing how all of this data can actually be used to support many other initiatives. And
Excellent. Do we have any? Yes, there we go. At the back first, and then I think Bubba next, and then there's, I think Bubba, you're second. I think there was someone first. Yes, there we go. Sorry, Mark. There we go. Get the mic down.
Hi, so my name is Naveen. I'm from India. I work with an organization called Dakshin Foundation. We work for sustainable and equitable, development of small-scale fisher communities there. I had just one question, which is related to one of the questions that were already asked in the slides.
Oh, sure.
Is, where would you focus your efforts in terms of, AI and tech support, right? And a lot of that was at sea. I saw that a lot of them kind of focused on, mentioned that it should be more at the sea. So my question is, why is, again, all the owners of ensuring sustainability, better oceans, all these other things, again, placed back on the fisher communities, and why is there no focus on spreading the responsibility a little bit more equitably across the value chain? Because fisher communities are already under a lot of stress and a lot of pressure. So just wondering how come there's no technological focus along the rest of the value chain. So.
That's a great question. Does anyone want to take that? Go, Ian.
Really good point. But the key problem is you take seafood as just another protein supply chain. Unfortunately, fisheries has been the last one to adopt that level of transparency from the catch harvest through to the processor. So that is the gray area. Now, in terms of the cost recovery, cost adoption model, that doesn't push it to the fishermen. It pushes it to the supply chain. And I guess what I'm saying is these multiple stakeholders now that need this information, and they need to contribute into the funding of these programs. So it's not just the regulator, it's the supply chain, it's the certification to labor, it's certification to safety. So it's not a burden, or it should not be a burden solely on the harvesting side of that supply chain.
Does that answer your question?
Yes, I agree it's a great area, but then shouldn't the focus be to bring in more tech and AI solutions to make it more transparent? Because production was a gray area for the longest time.
Catch-22.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't want that transparency.
Yeah.
So the other thing you have to then look is building capacity in the administrations and in the supply chains to see the advantage of more transparency, more traceability, to improve livelihoods, to improve value. So there's a bit of a push and shove at the moment between some people in the supply chain that really don't want the level of transparency, where others do, and at some point there's going to be an equilibrium.
Sarah?
Yeah, just to extend on that, like some of our challenges is convincing traders or processors to adopt our solutions, and their question is, well, why should I? What's the incentive for me? So it's a big challenge when you have businesses that are ahead of the curve in adopting traceability solutions and wanting to map out their supply chain, but then they face the challenge of their business actors not willing to share supplier details or supply chain data. So clear regulations are needed in order to balance that business accountability with the sensitivity of data as well.
Go one more. Go. And then we've got Baba next.
Well, I kind of agree, but the fishers have the same, pretty sure the fisher communities have the same response. They do not want to share that information as well, but they don't have a choice, right? Because there's a top-down pressure to share that data and make it available. And I'm saying, why is that same pressure not there on the rest of the value chain? That's
I totally agree.
Baba, over to you.
Yeah, I think my question follows on my friend from India, that it's a bit of a comment and a question. Ian, you raised the issue of advantages of taking on a full supply chain traceability solution, but there's also the risks that need to be considered as well. And particularly, like when you talk to the markets, if you ask them, are you willing to address human rights violations in your supply chain? Oh, yeah, absolutely. We'll do whatever is necessary. But then if something happens, they kind of shrug their shoulders and say, well, how could we have known? We don't have visibility into the supply chain. And so it's not a catch-22 as much as it is a chicken and egg. Because once that technology is available and once the fishery supply chain is accountable and transparent, then they're going to have no choice but to get some skin in the game. And I think that's one of the areas where the Walmarts and Costco's and Tesco's and others of the world, they haven't put the skin in the game. They haven't invested back in the supply chain, and they are taking a big risk in not doing so. So I guess my question is, what have you guys done to solicit that attention from the end markets and help them understand that they're taking a huge risk by not addressing this issue now, because the technology will come in time?
I think what we're seeing in general is they're pushing off those decisions as long as possible. So until FDA regulations come into force with a bang, and there are other market state regulations that come in with a bang, they will sit on the sidelines and not necessarily be proactive. There are some actors who say, okay, we want to get ahead of the curve. So we're working with some guys that say, even before the government gets into regulatory frameworks, we want to be ahead of the curve and start doing this for our own business commercial viability and to meet our own governance standards within that organization. But it's not a general theme by far. So chicken and egg, or what is the right incentive to move people forward to start funding and investing in that capacity building across all stages of that supply chain? And one of them is, as it came up in here, investing in capacity building. One of them is bringing the administrations up to speed. The gaps in administrations, the gaps in all these things that will help level that discussion. And in general, if you look at other protein supply chains, meat, all these things are demanded by food safety, right? And it's just part of the program now. If you're exporting other protein supply chains, whether you're a farmer with beef or another product, you have to comply with regulations related to that traceability requirement. It's moving it into fisheries. It's been hard because of that last out of sight, out of mind harvest component of that supply chain. So yeah, it's going to require a collaborative approach. Now, how do we get those funders and those big importers moving faster? That's something we need to sort of work on, I think, right?
Good. Okay, I think there was a question somewhere around here. Okay, at the back, there we go.
Thank you. My name is Ilham. I'm from AP2HI, Indonesian Pole Inland and Handland Fisheries Association. I want to ask Sarah from Cultiva. I heard you worked in agriculture before and now in aquaculture, and you plan expanding in fisheries as well. So I want to know whether you have a lesson learned from different sectors. Is there any similarity or challenges that is different from agriculture and aquaculture? And how do you anticipate in the fishery sector? Maybe you can share some. Thank you.
Yeah, so some commonalities between the sectors is, of course, the adoption of digital solutions, especially with smallholder producers. We're dealing with remote, limited access areas with limited to no signal. So we've had to overcome that challenge, and our apps that we use now are able to function offline. And then in terms of the adoption and stuff, we really focus on digital literacy, financial inclusion. When it comes to our boots on the ground services, I mentioned part of our digital products, and then we have our services and solutions, and that's our boots on the ground field agents that are doing master training and coaching sessions to really improve and support the user adoption in these remote areas. Yeah, so we started in agriculture, we got into seascapes within aquaculture in 2018, and yeah, the push has been there for us to get into fisheries from some of our clients and actors involved in Cultiva, and right now we're kind of just, that's why I'm fairly new to the company. I was brought on because we needed experience, so we've been building our aquaculture and fisheries team. And I'm telling the heads back in the company it's a completely different ballgame. So when we enter it, and we're talking with supply chains and actors within the supply chains, we want to enter it correctly and appropriately. And just like, I mean, we started in cocoa, and now we're within 47 different commodities, and each of these commodities has a different complex supply chain in itself. So we're adaptable. That's a key thing we have going for us. So. We do detailed supply chain mapping, and we socialize every actor within the supply chain to make sure that we're building a model that's very comprehensive and tailored to the needs and requirements of that client or that supply chain. I hope that answers your question. Yeah.
Okay, so maybe thank you, Sarah. Last two questions.
Yeah, hi, I'm Sivam Krish. We actually started as an ag-tech company, and we're moving into fish tech, so we've got some, I believe, some understanding here. So end of the day, you have the farmers and the fishermen, and you have a supply chain. And from my experience, it's very clear that the supply chain does not want to play around. End of the day, you have a consumer, and the supply chain supplies to the consumer, through supermarkets. The consumers have enormous power. And you can see that in things like tea, cocoa, where smallholder farmers produce a lot of the goods, you're seeing that consumer pressure is beginning to work, where they're giving some credence and some links back to the farmer who produced it, some links, and that's creating additional value that makes it work. So the question for you here is that I don't see that happening in the seafood industry, where this fisherman actually caught the shrimp or whatever, and here it is. Because unless you create that delta value, and unless the consumer demands that, I think it's going to be difficult to move the in-between pieces. So what's your thoughts on that?
Any takers, Sarah?
Is that for me? I mean, consumer awareness within the seafood industry is growing. Consumers are demanding more, eco-label seafood products, want to know where the product is coming from. So that push is there. But also it comes with the regulations, the changing regulations that are currently in process right now with Japan, with the European Union, with the FSMA, and also Canada as well, although we're not as ahead of the curve as a lot. But the regulations in place that are, requiring the importers or the large multinational corporations to map out their supply chain. So it doesn't really necessarily have to come from the consumer. It can come from the importer or the exporter even. Our supply chain mapping can start at any point within the supply chain. It doesn't have to start with the consumer. Yeah, I'm not sure how else to answer.
I don't think there's a magic answer to that one. It's probably... Okay, last question from the group, and then we'll let you go and enjoy the lovely Bali.
Yeah, my name is Sævar. I'm coming from the government of Iceland, from the Directorate of Fisheries. It's more of a comment to you all regarding transparency. That's the key factor in managing of stocks. So when Iceland came into quota system, it was rule number one, everything should be transparent. So we have a website, every kilo is registered down to boat, so you can always track what has been landed, and that is very beneficial for the markets also. So more transparency, that's number one. Thank you.
Thank you. Well noted. Okay, so we're going to wrap things up. So maybe could we give our panel a nice round of applause? That was a great session. Thank you, Ian, Sarah, and Dornafa. I'll do, before Claire comes up, I just do a quick advert. Yeah, please, Phil, please go. Don't worry. Tomorrow, I mentioned the work that we've been doing, the publication. I'll do a quick 10-minute presentation tomorrow at 3 p.m. So if everyone is welcome to that. But Pak Farid and myself and the team, we are really looking for partners with great ideas and potential solutions for the next 2 years of the work that we're doing. So please reach out to us during the conference if you have any ideas or suggestions. And then we're setting up a bit of a community of practice for AI in the Indo-Pacific. So if you are game and you'd like the slides from today and the data that you shared with us, we will give you back your data. Just if you're interested, sign up there or ping Pak Farid or myself. We'd be happy to have a conversation. And thank you all for joining. It was a great session, and I'll turn it over to Claire. Thank you.